Tonight on the Black Channel, they never know. They never know. They always tell you, how could we possibly have predicted that? How could we possibly have stopped it? You already know. The Black Channel is live. Unapologetic, unadulterated, and absolutely uncompromising. Greetings, brothers and sisters from around the world, and welcome back to the home, the haven, the stronghold, and the everlasting super fortress of intelligent black thought. We are the Black Media, and this is the Black Channel. And I am your host, your brother, your humble servant, the voice of Black America, the Black Authority, broadcasting to you live from the only historically black college and university of higher education and learning in the cosmos. You are, of course, welcome to join us. And join us you shall, because on tonight's program here, and it's a grim occasion for this to be sure, but as you all are aware, there was a mass killer up there in Maine, and he shot dozens of people, killed almost 24 of them, and certainly this is a very sad thing to hear about here. But for me, it goes beyond that. It goes beyond that. Because my point about it here is these things are preventable. They are preventable if you're actually going to apply these things. Now, let's be very, very clear. This is the thing I want to talk about here tonight, is that you already have the laws necessary in place. Folks, we have a law for everything. Hell, we've got 5 or 6 laws, literally, for every conceivable scenario that you could come up with. We have a law for that already. We already do. There is absolutely no reason or justification whatsoever to make more. We already have 5 or 6 laws for everything you can imagine, including this situation right here. You already have it. But remember, there is no law that is not enforced. There is no law that is not enforced. And therefore, if they will not enforce that law, then it is not a law. And when it comes to guns in this country, while they're very adamant that that not be the case, they're very adamant that not be the case. Now, in the case in Maine here, this guy basically shot up one place, shot up another one, drove down the street, shot up another one. And now they're saying that he's been found dead. Apparently, looks like he may have taken himself out. And it's things like this that jump out at me. Because you see, when these things happen, this is not street crime. This is not street crime. These are practically always situations where there were plenty of warnings. Let's go back to the original mass shooting. Klebold and Harris, Columbine. There were signs already what they were getting ready to do. You have well-to-do white parents. That gets ignored until the day of death. And we can keep going everywhere. Every time you turn around, when one of these situations happens, there was always a precursor, always a warning, always. And in this case right here, this is probably one of the more unscrupulous ones and one of the more disreputable, reprehensible ones here. Because what I want to show you here is from an article NBC News. I want to show that to you here because they're talking about, as you all may have heard about, these red flag laws. These laws where if somebody shows that they're a threat, the states give themselves the ability to come and make sure the person can't buy a weapon and that they confiscate any weapons that the person may already have. That's what they're saying. We got these red flag laws. Now, Maine doesn't have a red flag law per se. Maine has a yellow flag law. What's the difference there? We'll come to that here in a little bit here. But for Maine, I want you all to go ahead and see these details here. I want you to listen to what they're saying here. And you tell me, was this preventable? I want to go into this and you can tell me whether or not this could have been prevented. Maine's yellow flag law scrutinized as woefully weak after mass shooting. Gun safety advocates said it is a watered down version of the red flag laws adopted by 21 states, which have fewer procedural barriers. By Melissa Chan. Gun safety advocates ripped Maine's firearms law as ineffective Friday after a suspected gunman whose family said he was experiencing an, quote, acute mental health episode, allegedly shot dead more than a dozen people, triggering an ongoing manhunt. Our gun laws are woefully weak, said Cam Shannon, chair of the nonprofit Maine Gun Safety Coalition. We have long felt that this is a question of not if, but when. In 2019, Maine implemented what is known as a yellow flag law, which outlines several steps that must be taken before a weapon can be removed from an individual who poses a danger to himself or others. Now, I want to stop right here for a moment and remind you all, isn't it amazing? Stop and frisk wasn't something that folks were wringing their hands about and having conflicts over and was the source of protracted, long, drawn-out, vigorous debate. Does anyone remember that? You notice that? You notice that? These things are never the topic of long drawn out debate. When Michael Jackson went to court and the whole state of California wasn't able to railroad him into prison, here comes new laws to make it easier to compel minors to testify on the stand. That didn't take years of rigorous debate and hand wringing and, oh, we're going to have a turquoise light and a yellow light and maybe a red light. Notice it didn't have any of that. You notice that? Isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting? Bill Cosby, that didn't take years and years of rigorous debate. That didn't require that, now did it? Not at all. Not at all. So next thing you know here is that, isn't it amazing that when it's time to go after black folk, then all of a sudden things move swiftly, but when it's time to restrict white people's rights, when it's time to focus on white folk, all of a sudden things grind to a halt. You can't get anything done. You can't get anything done. Isn't that amazing? Now, when they want to go after black folk, bam! When they want to make a law that penalizes black people, I mean, it shoots through. You wake up with that damn law in effect so damn fast, you didn't even know they were debating it because there was no debate. Time to penalize them niggas, bam! Straight through. Even with your black politicians spearheading it. But when it is time to make laws or do something that limits white people, then all of a sudden they start telling you about how the laws are weak, watered down, inadequate, can't do X, Y, Z. Yeah, because now you want to restrict white people. That's the difference. Now it's time to restrict white people. And they're like, well, we'd be damned if you're going to do that. We're going to slow walk this. In 2019, Maine implemented what is known as a yellow flag law, which outlines several steps that must be taken before a weapon can be removed from an individual who poses a danger to himself or others. Gun safety advocates said the law is a watered-down version of the so-called red flag laws that have been adopted in 21 states. These laws vary, but generally require fewer procedural steps. Under Maine's law, a person who is concerned that a family member may be a threat to himself or others must first alert law enforcement, which would then take the family member into protective custody. According to Nick Suplina, the senior vice president for law and policy at Everytown for Gun Safety, a national gun violence prevention nonprofit. Now, there's no problem with this so far. No problem with that so far. It then goes on to say here that from there, the family member would need to be evaluated and deemed a threat by a medical professional, an added barrier that is not required under red flag laws, experts said. Only after a medical diagnosis could the judge approve an order to temporarily remove the firearm. So they're saying in the state of Maine that they would leave it up to a doctor to determine that you are a threat, not the police or a judge. A doctor would first a doctor would have to determine that you are a threat. Not law enforcement, not the judicial system. A doctor would need to do that first. Then a judge would be able to act on that medical diagnosis. Well, fortunately, there wasn't enough of a warning here, now was it? Fortunately, there wasn't enough of a heads up here, right? If you all agree that when it comes to penalizing black people, the laws just fly right through, give me the lightning bolt emoji in the chat room and hit the likes button. It's over 2,300 people in here live in just the first 12 minutes. And we have a lot of ground that we want to cover here. We have a lot of ground we want to cover. But if you agree that when they want to penalize black people, the laws don't move slow there. They get them through with lightning speed. Give me the lightning bolt emoji in the chat room and hit the likes button for me. Although if folks don't agree with me and don't hit the likes button, I'll just take it that they're like, Jason, we don't believe that that's happening. So we'll see. Quote, this is a bit arduous. It's not fast and it's not easy, Suplina said. The Maine law is unduly narrow. It's difficult to administer, and for that reason, it's not an effective way to stop mass shootings. Not that Maine's really had a problem with that, but okay. Now they're talking about the shooter now. Card, 40, is accused of fatally shooting at least 18 people and injuring many others at a bar and bowling alley in Lewiston, Maine on Wednesday night. The longtime Army reservist has not been found as of Friday, so this is yesterday, but we all know what's happened since then. He was an Army reservist. Card's family told NBC News on Thursday that he had been hearing voices for months. Now, if he admitted to the months, that means it was really years. But Card's family told NBC News that he had been hearing voices for months. Quote, his mind was twisting them around, said Katie Card, the suspect's sister-in-law. She said the family reached out to police and Card's Army Reserve base as they got, quote, increasingly concerned. Two senior law enforcement officials said Card's unit command. Now, do you all hear what we're saying right now? The family reached out to police and the Army. Two senior law enforcement officials said Card's unit commanders in the Army sent him to receive psychiatric treatment this summer after they became concerned about threats he made to the base and his claims that he was hearing voices. So there was absolutely no ambiguity about this. None whatsoever. None. Now, from another article from KATV, it says that the Associated Press reports that commanders in the Army Reserve's 3rd Battalion, 304th Infantry Regiment became concerned about Card's behavior while the unit was training at the U.S. Military Academy at West Point in New York. Military commanders, I'll go ahead and show this on the screen for you all here so you can see that. This is from WKATV. The Associated Press reports commanders in the Army's Reserve's 3rd Battalion, 304th Infantry Regiment became concerned about Card's behavior while the unit was training at the U.S. Military Academy at West Point in New York. Military commanders reportedly became concerned about Card's safety and asked for the police to be called, according to the AP. A police bulletin said he had reported hearing voices and threatened to carry out a shooting at a military base in Saco. So we've gone well beyond he's just hearing voices. He's outright saying that he's threatened to carry out a mass shooting. This was over the summer. Back over here at NBC News, Card spent about 2 weeks undergoing inpatient psychiatric treatment and was released, the official said. It is not clear what further action was taken. Clearly there wasn't any further action taken. They sent him home and told him, here, see if you can work this out. Why don't you go home and see if you can work this out? By the way, folks are not liking the program very much here tonight, so I may wrap things up here a little bit early. But before I do, I just wanted to go over this last part here. So he got taken in for psychiatric evaluation. He's publicly making threats. Family is concerned. His employer is concerned. Other people around him are concerned. He is openly threatening to do a mass shooting, not weeks in advance, months in advance. Months. A Defense Department official said Card's unit requested, let me go ahead and show that to you all so you can see that. Department of Defense official has stated that Card's unit requested that law enforcement be contacted in July. 3 months ago. They requested that law enforcement be contacted back in July after he began behaving erratically. New York State Police responded and took him to Kelly Army Community Hospital at the U.S. Military Academy for medical evaluation. At a news conference Friday, police officials in Maine declined to answer when asked whether law enforcement had been warned about Card and failed to act under the state's yellow flag law. Quote, I'm not going to talk about who knew what and when, said Michael Saschuk, the commissioner of the Maine Department of Public Safety. Well, we all know what that means now, don't we? You see, when the police and the government are able to defend themselves, when they're on the right side of things, why, you don't have to file Freedom of Information acts and requests. Why, they throw all the information out the front door at you. That it's greeting you before you get there. You don't have to go subpoena body cam footage. When the police believe they can defend themselves, when the government believes it can defend itself, you don't have to file lawsuits to go get that. When they feel like they can defend their position. Why, they bring it to you. They tell you they're doing a public service. Now, isn't that amazing? When they feel like the facts and the law and the information are on their side, you don't have to sit up here and nag them to get anything. But when they don't, all of a sudden they start telling you what they don't want to say. We don't want to give out any information. Gun safety advocates are left questioning whether Maine's yellow flag law could have helped stop the shooting. Even though Card underwent psychiatric treatment, Subpoena said he believes that would not have immediately set Maine's yellow flag law into motion because that process involved a law enforcement agency in a different state. The family would have likely had to contact police in Maine, starting a new process, Subpoena said. It's unclear if that happened. Katie Card declined to discuss whether the family tried to restrict his access to family firearms on Thursday and could not be reached for further comment. Did you get that? Katie Card declined to discuss whether the family tried to restrict his access to firearms on Thursday and could not be reached for further comment Friday. Could it be? Is it possible that his family was like, well, he's not threatening us. We don't really see where he's making a threat to us. He doesn't seem like a threat to us. Now, he could be a threat to others, but he doesn't really look like he poses an immediate threat to us. So that's the manner under which we are treating this. Subpoena said, quote, all this could have been avoided, but even red flag laws have limits. In New York, where such a law exists, authorities said that less than a year after a white teenager in upstate New York was investigated for making a threatening statement in school, he legally purchased a firearm, which he is accused of using to gun down 10 black people in a racist rampage in 2022. You're talking about Peyton Gendron, by the way. A year after a white teenager in upstate New York set off a rampage in 2022. You're referring to Peyton Gendron. This is not making killers famous. This is about making sure that you have documented what's going on. Now, let's be very, very clear. They're calling him a white teenager. He was 18 years old. They call him a white teenager. 18 years old, but they're referring to him as a white teenager. Just in case you all might have forgotten, NBC News referring to him as a white teenager. 18 years old. They're not calling him a young man. Trayvon Martin, 16, 17 years old, grown man. Peyton Gendron, 18, teenager. They go on to say that law, which aims to stop people from buying or possessing firearms when they show they are threats to themselves or others, should have helped thwart that attack. But gun policy experts said a lack of awareness about the measure likely played a role. Quote, red flag laws are effective, but implementation is everything, Subpoena said. They're only a good tool if you take them out of the toolbox. Folks, they use laws against black folks that don't even exist. They use laws against black folk that don't even exist. Now, let's be very, very clear. The government and law enforcement and whatnot, why they are hyper vigilant when they believe that they can target black people. Case in point, the governor of Maine, Paul LePage. Oh yeah, I'm going there. He may not be governor anymore, but if y'all remember, Governor of Maine, Paul LePage, I'm willing to give you the insight into the psychology of that state. To give you some insight into the psychology of that state. To let you know how in the world is it that you can have something like this happen. Well, let's take a look at the psychology of the folks running the state. Let's find out who the governor of Maine, now he's not governor anymore. There's a woman who's the governor now. But I wonder what he had to say, what he thought the threat was.
Under fire for this remark. He, of course, New Jersey Governor Chris Christie for president is under fire for this remark he just made about drug dealers.
Now, the traffickers, these are people that take drugs. These are guys that are named D-Money, Smoothie, Shifty, these type of guys that come from Connecticut, New York. They come up here, they sell their heroin, then they go back home. Incidentally, half the time they impregnate a young white girl before they leave, which is a real sad thing, because then we have another issue that we got to deal with down the road.
No comment yet from Christie. And Maine Governor Paul LePage, who has endorsed New Jersey Governor Chris Christie for president, is under fire for this remark he just made about drug dealers.
Now, the traffickers, these are people that take drugs. These are guys that are named D-Money, Smoothie, Shifty, these type of guys that come from Connecticut, New York. They come up here, they sell their heroin, then they go back home.
Yeah. D-Money, Smoothie, Shifty. Can you find for me the governor who is not even thinking? A governor who makes laws on a racial basis. Can you all find for me a governor who makes laws on a racial basis? Think about that for a few moments here. Can you find someone who would do that? You find somebody who would say something like that or do something like that, who's taking that into account as they are considering what laws that they're going to make. Think about that for a few moments. Because some folks will sit up here and say that, oh, we're just saying whatever. But you ask yourselves for a few moments here. These are the folks who are there and they're making these things and they're making these laws. They claim that they're making these laws, and if you're making them objectively, but I'm telling you, if you take a look at this right here, no. Is that the case? Really? Is that really the case? Is that really what you see? Are they really being objective? Or are the people who are making these laws making them through a racial lens? That if he sees a way to target black people, the laws get written one way. But if you don't see a way to go after them, and the laws go another way. They go another way. Do you think that's the kind of thing that could cause a problem? You think that's the kind of thing that could cause a problem? By the way, you know what? Let me go ahead. I think I want to do something a little bit better here. Let me go ahead and bring this up on the screen for you. I want to bring this up on the screen because I want you all to see this for a moment. Okay, let's make sure we do this. All right. Now, for those of you who may not be aware, because we are the black media, and as the black media, we are doing our job of informing you all. Governor Paul LePage was governor of Maine from 2011 to 2019. Maine's yellow flag law was ratified in 2019. So just in case anybody thinks I'm sitting up here just making these things up or whatever, by the way, Governor Paul LePage was the governor of Maine from 2011 to 2019. Maine's yellow flag law was signed into law in 2019. On his way out the door, he signed that law. By the way, whatever became of Governor Paul LePage? Whatever became of him? Well, here's what became of him. Former Maine Governor Paul LePage is once again a Florida resident. After failing to beat Democrat Governor Janet Mills in Maine's gubernatorial race, former Republican Governor Paul LePage is officially a Florida resident once again. According to the Sun Journal, LePage registered to vote in Ormond Beach on March 16th at the same address where he lived for 2 years after leaving the Blaine house in 2018. In December 2018, LePage vowed to run for a third term if he didn't like the actions taken by his successor, Governor Mills. LePage moved back to Maine in 2020 and lived in Edgecombe during his gubernatorial campaign in 2022. He lost to Mills by a 56-42 margin. Wasn't even close. But by the way, if you want to know where this governor is, if you want to know where he went to,
about drug dealers.
Now, the traffickers, these are people that take drugs. These are guys that are named D-Money, Smoothie, Shifty, these type of guys.
Yeah, if you want to know where he felt he would go, why he streaked it straight down Interstate 95 all the way until he got to Ron DeSantis, Florida. Are you seriously asking me why it is that your so-called yellow flag law was quote-unquote ineffective? And I submit to you that the people who implemented it did so with the expectation that it would get some people but leave others alone. And let's be very, very clear in what I'm about to say to you next. The shooter who killed all those people, when you take a look at him simply on paper, this is a Daniel Penny type. When you take a look at him simply on paper, Robert Card, when you look at him on paper, white male, military, middle class, gun owner, gun user. This guy on paper, this is it. This is exactly their model citizen. That's the point I'm making. He is a model citizen. He fits the profile perfectly of who they want as a citizen. He is exactly the kind of person that, aside from hearing the voices, he is exactly who they want. He is exactly who law enforcement is looking to hire, exactly who the military is looking to recruit, exactly who the governors are looking to bring into their state as residents. He is everything they want. And that's why their so-called yellow flag law did not trap him. And that's why I submit to you here that when you take a look into the history of it, we are giving you the 720 degrees of analysis that you'll receive absolutely nowhere else. When you actually investigate the history of it, now you start hearing all kinds of details that make it clear, by the way, the folks who wrote these laws and implemented these laws, they see things through a racial lens. No wonder your red flags and your yellow flags couldn't stop white privilege. No wonder. No wonder. And it's the same thing everywhere you go. Peyton Gendron, Ethan Crumbley, we can go down the list. This is not a matter of them being aware. It is, as I have told you all now, going on 2 decades, the goal of the American white supremacist social order is how do we create laws that penalize black people, but at the same time do not penalize white people. That's the real issue here. How do we make laws that penalize black people, but at the same time don't penalize white people? That's the whole goal. How do we create a system that will penalize, handicap, oppress, destroy black people, and white people have to live under the same laws? How do we make a law that black people and white people will both live under, but it only penalizes the black ones? How do you do that? Whether it's financing, whether it's law enforcement, whether it's education, whatever it is, how do we set this up so that it only penalizes the black citizens and the white citizens are allowed to skate through? How do you do that? And I submit to you that we are already there at this time, is what I submit to you here. And these other folks are playing dumb about these things. But just remember, this is where you are. There's even more to it here, by the way. There's even more to it. And I'm going to get to that here in just a few moments. But first, we're going to take a very brief commercial, non-commercial break. Before I do, I want to thank everyone, and I do mean everybody who has contributed to support tonight's program on PayPal, CashApp, Super Chat, Venmo. My man, Mr. Richburg, thank you very much for your support. We appreciate that. Mark B. and everyone else here, thank you very much for your support tonight. We're going to take a very brief commercial, non-commercial break. When I come back, by the way, there's another layer to this that you haven't heard anywhere else, but you will hear that here tonight. This is The Black Channel.
Hello, my name is Steve Burgess, and I'm the author of this book, Guidelines for the Successful Student, a closer look at parenting your school-aged child. In this book, I've explained the role of the parent and the student in addition to what accommodations, procedures, rewards and consequences and expectations that need to be in place to ensure student success from primary to high school. This book is available on Amazon.com. For more information, please visit my link tree at Easy One-on-One, and to access my latest podcast, A Teaching Moment with Mr. B. Thank you all for listening.
A white supremacist assassin seeks revenge. Corrupt FBI agents with evil intentions. Dangerous black collaborators dedicated to treason. Occam Jeffers must defeat them all and somehow survive. One misstep and he's a dead man. Join Occam Jeffers as he looks the devil in his blue eyes and tells him, Black first. A sequel to the underground hit War of the Heart, Spirit of 1811 Publishing presents God Love Us, on sale at Amazon. Pre-order and save today. Visit spiritOf1811publishing.com and show your love.
More Threads. A brand owned by a descendant of Black American freedmen was created to uniquely address Black American history and contributions that have been intentionally hidden and suppressed. Use their apparel and more to learn and share the Black American history of Black inventions, heroes, towns, Black business districts, and more. Sign up and support not only a Black-owned business, but a movement at www.morethread.co.
Order yours today to experience all the benefits of Ash Kickin' Natural Body Butter. With skin so smooth and soft, you'll thank us for it. Shop Ash Kickin' online. That's ASHKICKIN.com.
Hi, this is Brenda Starr, creator of Poetry with a Purpose and author of the book Pressed But Not Crushed. Pressed But Not Crushed is an anthology of political poems that address current and historical issues in American descendants of slave population and African American population. The book describes slavery and its residuals, Jim Crow segregation, social depredation, and other relevant issues to American descendants of slaves and African Americans, including the current political climate that does not address our issues.
Hello, my name is Steve Burgess.
This is the Black Channel. I am your host, your brother, your humble servant, the Black Authority. Very glad to be with you all here this evening. And what I want to do here is I want to take a look at something else here now. Some of you may not be aware of this, but you'll remember that there was another mass shooting here. There's another mass shooting here. In Tennessee, there was one. It's been a little while since that happened here, but there was a mass shooting at Covenant at this Covenant school, this Covenant Presbyterian Church. They have a Covenant school there. And I wanted to show this to you here. For those of you who weren't aware or didn't know about it, by the way, there's a legal fight going on right now. Let me show you exactly what that is. Why the Covenant School Shooters Manifesto has not been released. A Tennessee judge is deciding whether or not the Covenant School Shooters Manifesto should be released to the public. The families of Nashville's Covenant students want it to remain private, and the court is giving them the chance to present their case. President of the First Amendment Lawyers Association, Barry Nelson Covert, told the New York Post this is an unusual move and that he would hope that the judge applies the same standards and First Amendment criterion to the instant situation, regardless of the understandable emotions of the fellow students, the school, and the church. However, attorney Eric Osborne, who represents 100 of the 112 families of the school, told the judge that their biggest worry is for the safety of their school and others, and that, quote, writings like this tend to inspire additional school shootings. Now, then the folks who wrote this article said, there are studies that show media coverage on these mass killings do have a contagion or copycat effect. Notice they never speak about white supremacy that way. They never speak about white supremacy having a contagious or mass effect, by the way. So now they're telling you all that they don't want you to know why these people would say the things they say or do the things they do. So it's not freedom of information anymore. It's now freedom from information. That's what they're doing now. It's not freedom of information anymore. Now it's freedom from information. Well, I'll go a little bit further here because I wanted to go into on NBC News, they did an article when this happened here. It says the shooter, 28-year-old Audrey Hale of Nashville, may have planned to attack multiple locations, Police Chief John Drake told Lester Holt in an interview. All right, now, hang on to your hats, brothers and sisters from around the world. Hang on to your hats here. I'm going to go ahead and read through this. A sense of resentment might have played a role in a 28-year-old's deadly attack on the private Christian school they once attended, Nashville police said Monday. The shooter, Nashville resident Audrey Hale, had no previous criminal record before opening fire at the Covenant school, killing 3 children and 3 adults, authorities said. Quote, there's some belief that there was some resentment for having to go to that school, Metropolitan Nashville Police Chief John Drake told Lester Holt of NBC News. Hale had carefully planned the attack with detailed maps and surveillance, police said. While the shooter might have targeted the Covenant School, Drake stopped short of saying Hale was going after any specific people. There were also indications that Hale had planned to target other locations, Drake told NBC News. Covenant's head of school, Catherine Kuntz, 60, was among those killed. Quote, she targeted random students in the school. Whoever she came in contact with, she fired rounds, Drake said, referring to the shooter. So they're telling you the shooter was a female. Hale shot open a locked door to gain entrance to the school, officials said. The former student is alleged to have left behind writings being studied by local and federal investigators. People, my point is, we are more competent and can gain better insight from these writings than any of your politicians or law enforcement officials. We are more competent. Those of us in intelligent black society, those of us who study these things, those of us who take a look at the psychology of it, we are far more competent and capable of being able to dissect these things than your so-called government officials and law enforcement. So what you've done is you left it in the hands of the incompetent, and you've kept out the competent people, the only ones who could actually put these things in their proper context, especially going forward. Quote, we have some writings that we're going over that pertain to this date, the actual incident, Drake told reporters hours after the shooting. We have a map drawn out of how this was all going to take place. He said Hale was trans. He said that Hale was transgender. Officials, quote, feel that she identifies as trans. So in other words, this is a biological male. That these folks are telling you is now female. It's a biological male who identified as female. And then they went to go shoot up a school because they apparently identify as adolescent. Officials, quote, feel that she identifies as trans, but we're still in the initial investigation into all of that and if it actually played a role into this incident, Drake said. Well, if you release the manifesto to the public, we can determine what that will be. Why is it that you want to conceal this? Why is it you don't want us to see everything that was said? Because you don't want people to be aware of the magnitude of the threat. Because it's not the politicians getting gunned down. And that whether it is on the base, you notice there's a line that goes through all of this. If you have the complexion for the protection, everybody locks arms and says, okay, that's enough. You don't need any more information. You don't need to know anything else. Red flag laws be damned. Yellow flag laws be damned. Whatever is your motivation for doing it, the society will back it up. Whatever is your motivation for doing so, we got your back. We will cover everything up. We will cover up the crime. We will erase your name. We will get rid of your manifesto writings if you reference other people and show these lines of connection. Whatever the degrees of separation are, we're going to erase all of that so that the society walks around hopefully ignorant and unable to connect the dots. We will know it. An intelligent black society will know it, but will, without the documentation, it makes it hard to be able to prove that that's exactly what it is. And that's why I'm letting you all know that, by the way, when you go around here, yeah, they have a code of silence. We want to make sure you don't have any information about what's going on here. Why just leave it in the hands of the government? You mean the same government that has fumbled the damn ball all the way around? You mean the same government who said that the problem is Shifty and Smoothie and D Money? And meanwhile, the damn mad gunman is running all over town, shooting up everything he possibly can get his sights on? You mean that guy? You mean them? We need to leave our hands we need to leave our fate in their hands. We need to sit back and let them handle it. We need to let them decide how much we need to know and how much we don't need to know, because of course they have been so incredibly competent up to this point. Why would we possibly question their abilities? Why would we possibly question that? No, we need to just leave it up to them. Right? We need to just leave it up to them. That's what they say. However, you might disagree. Therefore, the telephone lines are now open. The number is 646-787-1933. That's 646-787-1933. Your personal access code to the blackest radio program in existence, the only one of its kind on planet Earth today. And as always, you are welcome to join us. I want to thank everyone who has contributed to support tonight's program on PayPal, CashApp, Super Chat, Venmo, my man Black Voltron. Good evening to you here as well, brother. We appreciate your support. Black Powder Podcast. Hale's parents knew she had a gun. They claimed they didn't know she was had a whole stash of firearms, and they knew she had mental issues. Yeah, but anything else would require you to penalize them. Anything else would require penalizing them. And what they're showing you is that these laws are made and crafted and created for the purposes of penalizing them. That's their point. Because that is what they're supposed to do. That's what they're supposed to do. That's important. Recognize how these things are being executed and implemented. These laws are not being executed in a colorblind manner. Understand something. We've been saying this now for decades, that when it was time to mass incarcerate black folk, when you maneuvered them in a way to mass incarcerate them, all of a sudden you mass incarcerated people. But every time that we reach a situation where it's time to mass incarcerate white people, then all of a sudden, everything gets real lax and everything gets real slack and everything gets real lenient. That's my point. Shout out here to Mr. Roden, Delcina Najee, and Mr. Wilburn. We're going to go ahead and open up the telephone lines. The number is 646-787-1933. That's 646-787-1933. Your personal access code to the Black Channel. Let me get caller from area code 617. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
I'm Aruki from Boston.
Okay, what's your name again?
I'm Aruki.
Okay, Aruki from Boston. What's on your mind?
Hi, Jason. So here's the thing, right? So it's not just for the Europeans. It happens for the Chinese. It happens for the Indonesians. One brother was talking on Tariq Nasheed's show, and I can agree with him in a little way that our people are probably not smart enough to figure out how to go about doing stuff or getting the supremacists to get what we want. Because the older generations, even though they went through a lot, whether we like it or not, they kind of got I wouldn't say they got everything they wanted, but they got the ear of the nation. You know what I mean? Because, I mean, they were, for the most part, on one accord. Because we were all being terrorized. But today, we have comforts. A lot of us have comforts. We're discombobulated. We're everywhere. Some people don't even agree with what you're saying. And it's like, you know what I mean? So,
okay. Well, let me find out a couple of things here, brother. So you're up there in Boston. How long have you lived up there in Boston?
26 years.
Okay. How long has your family lived up there in Boston?
Probably the same.
Okay.
Because we're not from here.
I figured as much. Where are your people from originally?
Dominica, not the Republic.
Oh, righty then.
Okay. Like I say, let me ask a question here, brother. Do you feel like the people of Dominica are not very bright?
No, it's the same thing. We go,
Okay,
yes,
that
to answer your question, correct.
Okay. And why do you believe they are not?
Because we go with the system too, you know? We don't fight against them. We go with whatever they say.
Okay. And what would you define as, quote, going against the system?
Well, for example, some of the colonial education that they teach us, you know, we should go against that.
Okay. And how would that help? How would that have helped and how would that be helping in this situation?
In what situation?
Well, the one you're describing here, sir. You're saying that folks are not very bright about that, and how is that
Okay.
How is that germane
Understood.
to what we're discussing here tonight? I'm trying to figure that out.
Right. So what I'm trying to say is the laws, they're able to pass these laws so quickly. We, as a collective, don't see that. We still try to look to the system to help us on the same playing field as these Europeans, Asians, etc.
Okay. Who is looking for the system to help them on the same playing field?
Well, that would be Negro people as a whole.
Right. Well, that's a very generalized statement. I'm trying to figure out what is the help that these folk are asking for that they shouldn't be.
Well, for example, if you look at Tamir Rice and you look at all these grandiose situations that happened in the United States, for example, I mean, no law came into place for protection for Negro people. They simply glossed over it like it didn't happen. Marches happened, but then they moved on to the next thing. And we have nothing to protect the so-called African Americans. Mm-hmm. Even though I'm here because of you. I'm literally here in the United States because you paved the path for me to be here. Meanwhile, when I came here, I'm sorry?
Okay. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and just chalk this up to the fact that he's 26 years old and probably his parents have ill-informed him. So let's see if we can have a little bit of a reality check where this is concerned, okay? Let's try to have a bit of a reality check here. Now, before I do that, we would have to have a common frame of reference because I've asked this question and I don't think I'm getting an answer, so let me try to rephrase this here. What do you think is the proper response that has not been given by Black people in America?
The common response I believe that the so-called Black Americans should give is to be on a one accord with each other as to what the problem is with your white supremacy towards you, instead of relying on the system as it is. Because the system as it is, I don't think is broken. I think it's working as expected.
Okay, sir, what you're saying doesn't make any sense. I think that Black people need to get together on one accord about what white supremacy is as opposed to relying on the system. Those are two totally separate things. They're in no way related. They're not those two things you just named are not the opposite of each other. That's two separate things, sir. So I don't see how they are related to each other or relative to each other in any way. That's why I keep asking about that. Those are two totally separate things. Relying on the system. First of all, you haven't told us what we're relying on the system for.
Well, we're relying on the system for everything. We need...
Okay, that's not an answer, sir. That's literally not an answer. Second try. What exactly is it that you think we're relying on the system for?
We're relying on the system specifically for justice for our people.
Okay. Well, maybe you have a point there, but it just depends. So let's find out. Now, what to you, what would you suggest doing that does not rely, quote unquote, rely on the system?
Sure.
For justice.
Number one, sure. Number one, and you might hate me for this, we should police each other. I think you've even mentioned this before, someone that I'm not sure if it was you. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but that's one thing we should do is police each other.
Okay, I do not understand what that means. So when you say that, quote, we should police each other, so the way in which we should deal with white supremacy is by, quote, policing each other?
Yes, that's one way, and I can give you my reason.
Okay, well, before you give me a reason, I want you to define for me exactly what that means. So what do you mean when you say policing each other is how you would deal with white supremacy?
Okay, well, one way is where I live in Dorchester, which is, I'm pretty sure you know Dorchester, but that, there's police everywhere, like literally everywhere. Every time I get up, they're just crossing our streets every second. Now, if we kind of set up our own watch, our own crime watch, in the sense that we speak to neighbors, we speak to our people, and we have group meetings, not group meetings, but you know what I mean, like family meetings where we come, we discuss, how's your child doing? How's your child doing? Like we hold each other responsible for each other. We won't have to rely on the police or call 911 immediately if something happens, because that would be relying on it. Not saying we don't need it. I'm just saying, like, we should rely on each other so that we won't have to use the system as a secondary course of action.
Okay. So you got to understand here, folks, so what you're saying is that white supremacy, that this is more of we're our own worst enemy is what you're saying. So now,
in many ways, not really, but in many ways, yes.
Okay, well, no, that's what you're saying, sir. It's not in many ways. That's what you're saying. You're saying we is our own worst enemies.
Not entirely. Not entirely.
Sir, that's just like saying I don't entirely eat food. Well, no, sometimes you drink water, but that doesn't change the fact that you eat food, sir. So, yes, sir, you are saying we are our own worst enemy. That's what you're saying. So I want you all to understand just that quickly. We're not dealing with Zimmerman. We're blaming Trayvon Martin. We are no longer talking about white supremacy. We've now taken our eye completely off the ball of white supremacy. And we're talking about not how the white supremacist system needs to be torn down, but how black folk need to recognize how flawed they are. And we need to focus not on the white supremacist system, but we need to focus on black people.
I didn't say that.
Sir, that's literally what you just said. Because your solution did not involve the white supremacist system whatsoever, nor how it affects the white supremacist system. You're talking about we need to police ourselves. The young man had not actually stopped to think this over. Or worse, these are the conversations that he has around the table with his parents. And, if those Negroes over there in America, if they would just understand it. But then when you ask them, okay, what are we going to do about white supremacy? The subject changes. And it's no longer about white supremacy anymore. It's about, well, the real issue is black folks is their own worst enemy and we is the problem and we ain't smart enough. Take a look at the condescending tones with which he speaks about that.
But I'm including myself in that.
Okay, well, sir, I'm just bringing this to your attention that, by the way, listen to the way in which you're speaking. This goes to the psychology behind it. Is this person actually implementing or insisting on devising an answer, or are they trying to change the subject? Black folk need to police each other. Hey, are your kids all right? And sir, that stops the police from targeting black people, the government from redlining black people and systemic racism. That helps how?
Well, that was just one example, but it helps how? Okay. One, it helps us hold ourselves accountable to each other.
Okay, so the argument you're trying to make is that basically we got too many wayward kids, and that's a factor.
No, that's just an example.
Yes, sir. You're saying that we got too many wayward kids, that's a factor that you're raising there. And if that were not the case, then we would be less susceptible to white supremacist racism?
Absolutely. In one way. Yes, because now what they're using, have you ever put your hand in this Chinese thing? You put your hand forward, and if you pull your hand out quickly, it sticks. This is how the white supremacist system works. When we fight against it, it works against us in the most harshest way. But when we hold ourselves accountable, we are able to it's not able to hurt us, because now we're holding ourselves accountable. Do you understand what I'm saying?
No, sir. How is we holding ourselves accountable preventing them from still victimizing us?
Because, no, I'm not saying it won't. I'm saying that we will be at least on one accord. For example, this lone wolf
now he's changing subjects again. Sir, you were asked a question, and what I'm saying is you're actually illustrating the weakness of your argument, what you're saying, because you keep changing the subject every time you're asked about that.
Correct. That is true.
Now,
that is true.
Let me explain to you where the flaw in your thinking is, because you all are not descendants of the same lineage that we are. This is knowledge or understanding that's probably that you're probably oblivious to. Sir, any argument that you could make about black folk and what we're not doing, or how we could be more disciplined, or if we would just be more disciplined or in shape, if we just be less ostentatious, if you just pull your pants up, if you wouldn't have booty shaking, any argument that you could make that we're not religious enough, we're too religious, please understand, ever since the so-called end of antebellum slavery, those are the conditions that have always existed. We have always existed, and all the things that you say need to be fixed or corrected, that was already the condition. And at no time were we ever not targeted by the white supremacist system for the last 170 years. At no point did they even slack off. We have consistently been targeted, no matter what our personal behavior. Talk about the Code of Conduct, Nation of Islam, or anything else, Marcus Garvey, Universal Negro Improvement Association. It doesn't matter what we're doing. We're a target no matter what. So this psychological masturbation that, we're not mounting an appropriate response because we're not policing ourselves enough, that's a coping mechanism and diversion, but it's not an actual factual argument backed up by any evidence. We've already lived this, and at no point did it make us less of a target. Our condition of persecution has never changed. Do you understand that part?
Yes, I agree with that part. But Jason, is it possible to do that in parallel, to police ourselves? And I use the word police as an example, but is it okay to look at it like we police ourselves, and then in a parallel view, we also do or attempt to destroy the white supremacist system? Because how can we do it if we're not where our ancestors were, is basically what I'm saying. I'm not saying that's the end all be all, but
okay, show me the point where black people in this country had white supremacy on the ropes.
Yes, that would be, you're probably going to laugh, and I hope you don't. This would be during the colonization era, when the Indians, who were Negro Americans, were fighting them. Okay, and they, slavery was not told as they tell us, because I don't really follow their story or their history, but slavery didn't just happen out of nowhere. Our people were already here building. We already had civilization going and everything.
Sir, so there has been no period in American history where black people had white supremacy on the ropes. Now, you've had some instances, yes, where black people held their own in isolated areas. Yes, there are instances of that. In some isolated geographic areas, certainly. But at no point were black people ever together in such a large number of ways, or a certain amount of discipline, that had white supremacy on the ropes. That's never happened, sir.
Correct. Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute. Yep. Actually, Jason is in error there. So I'm glad you agreed with me, sir, because that's actually in error. There have been at least 2 periods of time where that did occur. Number one is during the American Civil War. While they were going at each other and whatnot, you had black people like Alexander Turner and others who took advantage of that. Number 2 is the civil rights era of the 1960s. In the words of our immortal ancestor, Dr. John Henry Clark, at that point in time right then, the white society would have given us anything that we wanted. We were mobilized in such large numbers, we were codified in such large numbers that they would have given us anything that we wanted. We became the national agenda. And what they got us to settle for was integration. So whereas we had seen Carter G. Woodson and W.E.B. Du Bois, we had thought that once we had gotten the government to recognize us and recognize the issue, because we were out in the streets, our music, our movies, our songs, our religion, everything was codified in the culture of resistance at all levels. We were insisting on a separate identity. And what happened was we got hit with a bait and switch. So that's when you start getting all this double speak. And that's when they're saying one thing and misleading you with another. They're telling you I'm using a word like integration, and you're taking integration to mean equality and empowerment. And that is not what it will be. So they're using words that they assume you're going to take one way. In reality, that's not what happens. So there have been times and periods, a couple of instances where we did have white supremacy in this country on the ropes. There actually have been. But let's be very, very clear. It wasn't about, quote unquote, black folk policing each other. It's not so much about that. Also, when you talk about understanding or recognizing white supremacy, everybody understands it. Everybody understands it. Everybody sees it. Everybody knows it for what it is. You only have 2 types of black people: those who see white supremacy and fight it, and those who see white supremacy and go back to picking the cotton. But then again, those are the 2 groups that you have always had. Always. Now, the next thing that you're also throwing out, we could actually have a 3rd era if you want to. That was just a few years ago during the pandemic at the George Floyd uprisings. We got more done in 6 months than the civil rights generation had gotten done in 6 decades. Our agenda was on the table, and we were getting more consideration and moving more things then than they had done this previous 6 decades, which is why reparations is now on the national agenda. States are taking it up. Presidential candidates are taking it up and talking about it. Reparations is not some conspiracy theory being floated around on YouTube channels anymore. It is front and center. It is being talked about in a serious, real way. Now, that is something you did not have previously at all. That doesn't require most of us or even half of us to, quote unquote, take it seriously or talk about this or whatever. We just need 10% of us, which currently we have more than that now. We just need a critical mass. And at that point, they lead everyone else. That's where we are right now.
Thank you, Jason.
Thank you very much for giving us a call here tonight. He's young, folks, and you got to understand some of these folks here, their families have the immigrant backgrounds, and these are the things that they say with each other. And the real reason for it is because these are the excuses that they tell their children for why they haven't turned around and fixed the situation where they come from. This is how you keep the children of Jamaica from asking, how is it that Sandals or all these big resorts down there, how the hell is it they can be making hundreds of millions of dollars off of our coastline, and meanwhile we got to set up as street vendors on the outskirts of these big resorts they've built that belong to us. These are the explanations and rationale. Well, we're just not very bright about this. Well, we're just not very smart about it. Well, the problem is if enough of us could get together. And I just want you all to understand that these are the excuses. If you want to know why it is that so many of them say things like that, it's because these are the excuses that their parents give them and their expatriates give them. These are the things they say. And they direct it towards us, but in reality, it's meant to deflect from what they haven't done. You heard the young man, he's talking about, well, I'm including myself in that. Well, hell yeah, your parents are including you in that. Because if you don't start talking like I do, you wouldn't look at them and say, hey, by the way, you nigga, how the hell is it you hightailed it out of there and left my birthright? That was not your land that you abandoned. That's mine. And maybe you're okay giving up your birthright because you are a coward, but I'm not okay with you giving up mine. So I want you all to understand where that comes from. You see, for us, the people who don't run, that's a whole different thing for us. We have a problem with running because we understand that we don't have another place to go. If we run and flee from here, we are running and fleeing and abandoning our entire history and our birthright. We ain't okay with that. We're not okay with that. That's why their people make those little condescending comments and whatnot. Everything's about just bow down. You don't make no waves now. And it's like, no, we're the people who make waves all over the place. When we talk about white supremacy and then you turn the conversation and say, well, black folks need to pull their hands up and gotta watch these kids out here. And okay, but what about the white supremacists over there? Because let's be very, very clear. During the George Floyd uprisings, we made a whole lot happen with cell phone in hand. We're traveling this country, we made a whole lot happen with cell phone in hand. We got organized with cell phone in hand. So it's about how you use these things and what your focus is. But don't succumb to the seductive practice of erecting straw men. Caller from area code 206, you're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hi, good evening. This is Agnes, and I'm calling from Seattle, Washington. Good evening.
Agnes from Seattle, what's on your mind?
Hi, I just wanted to say excellent broadcast for really doing the deep dive on that Lewiston, Maine killer, and also the former governor, who was also born and raised in Lewiston. Another point that you brought out was you replayed that cringe-worthy clip where, yeah, he said that racist stuff. Yeah, he meant that racist stuff. Maine is 93% white. It's one of the second whitest states in the union next to Washington State. Ha, ha, ha. And then on top of that, I'm glad you brought up the fact that he fled down I-95 straight to DeSatan's, Florida, where a lot of those white supremacists from Maine, Massachusetts, and New York find a safe haven. So he's not working in isolation, definitely. He has a whole lot of cohorts. Another thing about that Maine shooter is this. That guy was protected. Number one, he was a reservist in the military. Number two, Lewiston, that's next to an Army depot, installation. So he was very well protected. And as you brought out in your analysis, very thorough analysis at that, once too much information gets out there for the general public like us to figure it out, they got to shut everything down because that's the code.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. when they say this garbage about, oh, we don't want to sit up here and, oh, we don't want to release the manifestos because this could inspire other people. See, what they don't want us to do is to be able to connect the dots. Because if you see people keep naming the same people and keep naming the same websites and keep naming the same books and keep naming the same schools and keep naming the same cable TV channels and keep naming the same personalities, if you see that, we can sit here and make a whole document of this to show, hey, this isn't conspiracy theory and this is not supposition or guessing or speculation. We got hard evidence. They are being radicalized from a central point. That people who we can, by them concealing these things, they make it where it's time to codify it into law, but they're depriving you of the information, the documents where it comes from. So when you say we need to sanction Fox News or Stormfront or 4chan or the alt-right, we can show these are the names, these are the people. The killers have stated where they picked this up from. You see, then when you start talking about RICO, oh, I said it. You see, we're supposed to be talking about RICO and terrorism. We're supposed to be talking about RICO and terrorism. And when you can name that these incidents, there's a common point of connection between them all in the alt-right or in certain spaces online, then all of a sudden it becomes a whole different thing when you can show, hey, here's killer after killer, event after event, all of them connected to the same nucleus. Then it becomes obvious, well, if we deal with that nucleus and neutralize that nucleus that all of these problems are emanating from, well, that changes things now, doesn't it? So the goal here is to recognize, yeah, we're not happy the shootings are taking place, but the solution to that would be to majorly disarm and handicap white supremacy, and we can't do that. So, yeah, just hide the manifesto. Caller from area code 651, you're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hey, Jason Black. This is Bill calling out of Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Bill out of Minneapolis, what's on your mind?
Hey, I just wanted to say great broadcast tonight, and you're doing an excellent job breaking down the whole situation when it comes to Maine. And you know, for me, when I was remembering Columbine back in 1999, you know, they tried to portray the mental health excuse when it came to Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold when they were committing the crimes. But what they pretty much don't understand here is that they were pretty much, the signs were pretty much there even from that shooting too, and people just ignored that. And what happened resulted in one of the worst shootings in American history. So I always try to tell people when these kind of situations happen, the signs are right in front of your face. Just like with Kilton Goodrich back in Buffalo last year. The signs were pretty much there. They meant what they were doing. And yet they want to play this excuse every single time. Why?
You make a very good point.
Because they're trying to keep their stranglehold.
Montel Williams, after the Columbine massacre, Montel Williams, when he had his talk show there, Montel Williams had done a program about that. They had talked to some of the victims. They had talked to the black kid who got killed. They had his father there. And Montel had made it a point to point out that, by the way, Klebold and Harris, they had said, there's the nigger there, get him. Now, he had made a point to say this wasn't just a mass shooting here. Montel did us a great service by showing and pointing out that there was a very clear racial element. Klebold and Harris were praising Adolf Hitler. There was, on video, there was a very clear racial component, very clear. And ever since then, the conversation and the narrative has been distorted to make it about guns, which is the point that we've always made. The conversation and the narrative has been changed and shifted to make it about guns. When you got individuals writing manifestos that are down the line about white supremacy. When we have to get folks focused on, no. The media is distorting this to try to deceive everyone and mislead everyone. This is about white supremacy, not about guns. Because you see, once everybody gets focused on the white supremacist element of it, it's like, okay, what do you do? Well, next thing you know, they start disarming people. Folks start getting rounded up. RICO statutes start going in. You start having mass incarceration. Well, that's a worst nightmare. That is a worst nightmare to see occur. So I'm very glad you brought up Columbine and about the racial element of that. And like I said, I don't know if you all can find it online or whatever, but Montel Williams did a show about that right after that happened. And he was pointing that out. I want to say they may have played video during it. I know Inside Edition did once. But they made clear that there was a racial component, a very strong racial component to this. And folks sit up here and act. This is why when you have white supremacist trolls sitting up here trying to ask about, why is it that Kyle Rittenhouse is so important in our discussions, that he only shot white people? It's not about him only shooting white people. It's about what was his intent, what was his goal, what was his focus. Because in white supremacist circles, when white folk are not on code, if they can't get you on code by talking, they get you on code by threatening and shooting. And if you don't get on code, we're going to really tear some things up.
Yep.
I'll let you have the last word.
Yeah, pretty much. That's pretty much on point. It's like you think about it. It's like you either are going to fall in line or they're just going to do it by force. I mean, in every single mass shooting that we've seen in American history, it's the same familiar pattern. And until people wake up to the realization of that, it's going to continue on. And the media has a lot to do with it too, because they always like to play this portraying that it all revolves around guns and mental health. No, it's a race war. That's all there is to it. It's a simple race war. And I'm going to lay my plan on that. B1.
B1, brother, thank you very much for giving us a call. Now, let me get caller from area code 708. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
This is Sean calling from Austin, Illinois.
All right, Sean, from Austin, what's on your mind?
Sir, thank you for keeping us what's current with what matters. In 2019, you said it was a red and a yellow flag law for the shooting that happened in Maine, right? And in 1999, because of something that happened in 1998 in Connecticut at the lottery, the headquarters at the lottery, right? In 2007, it was a Virginia Tech mass. In 2012, it was the Sandy Hook massacre. But a red flag law, it's in 21 states, right? And most of them is on the East Coast. Connecticut down to Washington, Virginia, Rhode Island, whatever. And then there's one in Illinois, Colorado, Oregon.
Okay,
California.
Let me find out here, Sean. What is your point? We need to get to the point here.
Sure, I can scurry along. My point is most of it is happening on the East Coast, and was the red flag law originally for suicide or mass shootings, and who should be held liable when this happens? And why hasn't the Secretary of Defense, the Department of Defense, said anything about all these soldiers just out here shooting up civilians? Even though we appreciate everything the soldiers do, they need to address this so we don't be living in fear.
Okay, why do you think they're doing that? The soldiers, I mean.
Well, because they're triggered by the training. And just like you can see and when they go to Target and somebody fighting over a parking space and they get to yelling, they get triggered. So they probably, once they get discharged, they're on medication, and that's why they're hearing voices. Okay. And if we all say, well, medication,
so what you're saying is you don't think there's a racial component. You think that it's a psychotropic and mental health component.
Of course there's a racial component.
That is not what you've been saying all this time, so let's not say of course. You didn't mention a word about that before now, so let's not say that.
Well, I'm talking about on the East Coast.
Yes,
about the
you already said okay, I'm talking about those two, ma'am, and you were asked what it was, and you said the military and psychotropic drugs and mental health, ma'am. That was what you said. Thank you. So that's what I'm saying. So you're not saying there's a racial component there. Oh, that's a mental health issue.
I don't know if this was racially motivated about the topic today, since it was a white man shooting all the white people. But yeah, probably white people probably don't like other white people. I'm sure Karen don't like Ken, and Ken don't like Karen.
Well, if we were
probably
allowed access to their manifestos, maybe we could find that out now, couldn't we? Because the evidence sure does point in a specific direction. And I've already laid out the case tonight about why, specifically in the case of Maine, when you take a look at who was the governor of Maine at the time that their yellow flag laws were ratified, then it starts to become clear that the people who were passing these yellow flag laws in Maine, they had a racial view of things. They saw making the laws through a racial lens.
And that's probably why they got an extra flag. It ain't just red, it's yellow, and it's probably one step to black. So black or blue or purple, whoever knows what's next is probably coming. What? So I don't know why Oklahoma is anti against any flag, but the East Coast definitely is not. And that's when most of the white people mass shooting is going on. But okay, I do.
All right. Not really sure. Sean is up late again, is all I can imagine. Caller area code 619. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
This is Michelle, formerly from San Diego and currently in Nashville.
Hi, Michelle, and what's on your mind?
So I actually was working out there for the Covenant when they had that shooting that happened. And I was working on one of the counselors who was helping the parents in regards to that issue. I just wanted to call and let you know some of the information that I had heard was that the reason why the shooter targeted that area was because they formerly went to that school, like in elementary. And supposedly that school itself isn't even on a main road, and it's 20 to 30 minutes away from downtown Nashville. But from what I understood, the reason why the shooting had happened was because of some kind of sexual misconduct against the person when they were going to school there.
Okay, well, that certainly wouldn't be too far outside of the realm of possibility there. That certainly wouldn't be. And of course, this upholds the code of silence there. It certainly does do that. So I wouldn't dismiss that out of hand. I think that's certainly important. Although that also may go to why they don't want to publish his manifesto. They don't want him to say exactly what the cause was.
Yeah, because I know that the individual was transgendered, and from what I had heard was that some of the people that were getting counseling were talking about how that individual transitioned, and there might have been something that happened in their past that caused them to transition, and maybe this was one of the factors that caused them to actually go back to the place of origin and kind of retaliate, if you will.
Well, definitely I think there is an argument to be made that one of the reasons why a lot of these folks may not want it released is they already know this, Michelle.
Mm-hmm. I wouldn't be surprised.
They may already know that,
yeah.
And they don't want to open up this can of worms, because if this happened to him now or her, then it makes you question, okay, what about, were there any others
in the school? Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And
how many other kids who was it who did it, and how many other kids did it get done to? And this is just the one who went postal. How many others did it happen to?
The area that the shooting actually took place is a predominantly white area. It's a richer area called Green Hills, and that school itself, you can't see it on the main street even going down in that area. I've driven past that area. You have to have a clearance to get up there. It's secluded, and there's trees everywhere, and just to get to the main entrance is another like 5-minute drive into the actual school itself. So it's a very private area itself. And I even seen when they had like Billy Graham come out there, and he was in some of the churches that were on the main road, but they were still about 15, like, well, not 15 minutes, but they were still about 5 to 10 minutes away from the actual school itself. And there's no coverage, no pictures whatsoever of the school because it was a private school like that.
Okay, what's the racial makeup of the school?
Predominantly white. It's a rich white area, Green Hills, and there's predominantly white in the area. And I think one of the people that were shot was like a black janitor, but everyone else was white. 3 white children and 2 white teachers, and then the black janitor, and that was it.
Right, because here's my thing. It is one thing to say that a school, a company, a neighborhood is, quote, predominantly white. It's another thing to say it's all white. And if the only black person there is the janitor, then, I mean, that's a white school. He just works there.
Yeah.
This is a white school.
Yeah.
This is a white school with white faculty. You could have Mary maids doing the janitor work. So if the only black person you have there is the janitor, yeah, this is an all white school. And for me, that's all the more reason to take a look at this manifesto. I'd like to see everything involved, because even though there may have been some shenanigans going on at the school, I understand that. But how did this individual arrive at the idea that the way in which you remedy this is a mass killing? Who did they watch or who did they see who told them that this is how you get, quote unquote, justice for yourself? Now, there's the question I would have. I think it's a two-dimensional thing here. Okay, even if that were the case, that somebody did something to them and that it's been bothering them all these years, I can understand that. But who was it who put in their minds? What did they see? What did they watch that led them to believe that this is how you remedy that?
That's a good question, because even I was shocked to kind of find out more about that school covenant and the fact that it is a private school. So I don't know how that kind of plays out, but it's a private school for basically white children to go to. And this individual was privileged enough to go to the school for elementary, and to think that something might have happened that caused them to go back and to want to retaliate against this school. It was a bit of a shock to the area because of just how affluent the area is itself. It's a pretty rich area and a pretty white dominant area.
Yeah, like I say, I mean, I think this is something for us as black folk to remember, that even in these situations or incidents that may not be predominantly powered by a white supremacist ideology, that they may be white supremacist adjacent, that part of their culture is, and if you don't like what's happening, the gun is what empowers you. Now, this is how we took this land. This is how we empowered ourselves as white people. Well, then it's like, okay, well, if that works on the Negroes, then it'll work over here too. So that's what I'm saying. By the way, I'd like to know if they had access to somebody else, or if there was some other ideology to put a bug in their ear, and that they came out of it like, yeah, this is how you empower yourself. Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. Just curious if that's the way that was happening. Caller from Miracle 330, you're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Yes, Rudy from Akron, Ohio.
All right, Rudy from Akron, what's on your mind?
So, I don't know if everybody is aware of this, but in 2022, a guy by the name of Alan Polis purchased over 120 acres of land in Maine. And quote from an article, he included a 10-acre spot he described as a main camp for a white supremacist organization to network, strategize, and train. And, you know, I just don't think people realize how these white supremacists are actually, like, putting motion behind what they're saying and doing. So if I know that it's 120 acres of land that's delegated to a white supremacist, whatever they have going on, do the police know that, and do they know about that? And I'm sure they do know, but you know, it's going to be addressed differently. But just to know that that is a thing that exists is a problem.
Yeah, there's enclaves all over the world, not even all over America, but all over the world. You've got these white enclaves out in the woods somewhere, whole big, huge stretch of land, you know, trespassing signs. So you've actually got a number of these, not just in North America, but around the world. Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. Let me get caller Miracle 312. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
This is Pat calling from Chicago.
All right, Pat from Chicago. What's on your mind?
Okay, Jason, I know you're talking about that shooter, but I have a bone to pick with you tonight, if you will allow me.
I mean, if it's relevant, sure.
Well, yes, I'm coming to defend our elders, our Black elders. I think you give them a bad rap. And I think that
you sure they don't give themselves a bad rap? It's me giving it to them. It's not them. It's not what they're doing. I'm not just reporting the news, but it's not what they did. It's me giving it to them.
That's right. It's you, Jason, because you kind of drag our elders, and I'm like, that's not cool.
Okay, I'm not just reporting the news. I'm dragging the elders.
Yes, you are, because you call them the old ninjas. I won't say the word.
Oh, niggas.
See, that's not right, Jason. That is so not right. And I'm here to defend them because, let me tell you why I'm here to defend them. Because I have a lot of elders that are in my family. And I have talked to my elders, and I think I would strongly advise and encourage you, talk to the elders in your family. That I think the context that I think that you and sometimes Tariq, because he kind of drags them, here and there, but he's not nearly as bad as you how he dragged the elders. But I think you guys should really put it in context of what those people were really going through. I mean, see, we've gotten some comfort, some relaxation, and those people every day, they didn't know if they were going to live or die. What? They were living under the gun for real. And I think they were taking the best deal that they thought they knew to take to stay safe. That is where I think, so no, they weren't thinking about reparations. How are you going to think about reparations when you don't know if you're going to get your head chopped off the next minute? I think we need to be fair and put it in context.
Boy, what in the hell's the matter with you?
Ma'am. Okay. Before we talk
Have you talked to the elders in your family?
Ma'am, of course I have. But my family is I consider my family to be an exception to the rule based on the evidence and the outcomes here. Let's take a look at some facts, shall we? Let's take a look at some facts. You talk about, let's please understand that after antebellum slavery, we're talking about you are in the heart of it. They are calling you nigga in the streets. They got up signs and everything else. It has never been more clear what the issue is. Let's also be clear on one more thing. You cannot name a single significant Black revolutionary, civic leader, abolitionist. You can't name a single one that did not point out that, by the way, they were in the minority in their time. Not just immediately following antebellum slavery, but in the 1920s. Now we get to Marcus Garvey, 1950s and 60s. We're getting to Malcolm X, 70s, Huey Newton. We've never had them as a majority. The majority has always, of the older generation, as a group, was always saying, now settle down and don't make no noise. It is only when we get to when my generation comes of age. Now we're in the 1990s. Now you've got this resurgence of Malcolm X. You see, this is why it's so pathetic what they did. We,
It's our
the
generation.
children,
I'm
slow
with you.
down. We, the children of the civil rights generation, we had much more respect and much more esteem for Malcolm and Martin and Medgar. We were the ones who dug into them. We're the ones responsible for that resurgence. The civil rights generation buried them. The civil rights generation turned its back on them, just like the World War I generation turned its back on Marcus Garvey. Even though Marcus Garvey found much more fertile soil in North America than he ever did in Jamaica, the bottom line is the civil rights generation were never a bunch of revolutionaries. While they may have been so much more of a vanguard than the folks from outside America were, the bottom line is, let's be very, very clear. The second they had an opportunity to sit down, they did. Now, we have been blessed to have a skilled set of individuals, historians, activists, media personalities. We've been very blessed in that regard to have that. But let's go ahead and take a look at the circumstances and conditions under which these old niggas were living. And you all tell me if they had advantages or not. Now, let's take a look at that. Number one, they had a dollar that was worth 10 to 25 times the one we got today. Let's just start with that one alone. They had a dollar that was worth 10 to 25 times the one we have today. You talk about buying power. You talk about potency of the money. Their factory jobs, one man working a factory job could take care of the whole damn family. Of course, black women still had to work. There's a nuance to that. What I'm saying is the dollar they had was a hell of a lot stronger than the one we have today. The one that these kids got going around with today has been so badly diluted. You're telling these young people in the most treacherous generation ever to do so much more with so much less.
But can I give you some pushback?
Okay, here's all I want you to do. Here's all I want you to do. I want you to just listen for a moment. We'll come back to you in a minute.
Okay.
We ain't got old nigga privilege here, so calm down. Next order of business. These old niggas had a choice to make. Now, they had a choice between confrontation and subjugation. Their generation was consumed and obsessed with getting white people to finally approve them. So they're dealing with battered child syndrome. If I can just get white folks to finally appreciate me. Our generation, my generation, is the first one that did not look for or prioritize white approval. We're the first of the entrepreneurial generation that says, no, we want ownership. And we are not first and foremost concerned with being accepted. Black folk of the civil rights generation, the World War I generation, that's why they endlessly talk about the first Negro. This is why white folks today don't talk about what giving concessions to us. They talk about, well, we'll appoint another first Negro. Well, this is the playbook that worked with your grandparents and your great-grandparents. Well, it worked on them. Why doesn't it work on you? That's what they're perplexed about today. Well, this worked on your granny and your great-grand. Why is it not working on you? Because that worked for so long. And it still works on them today. Joe Biden shows up. Vote for me, Ketanji Brown Jackson. Yeah, I locked up your grandkids, but Ketanji Brown Jackson, the first Negress on the Supreme Court. Still doing it to this day. Now they've run out of first nigga slots to give out. Now they're celebrating second nigga slots. Oh, this is the second nigga that we put in this position. See, we got another one. Well, we've had one senator. Well, we got a second black nigga. Here we go. Even though we've made it clear to them that doesn't hold any weight with us, they're still running that playbook because that's what the old niggas taught them that they responded to. And you pass that legacy down because now they expect us to accept it because they accepted it, because y'all accepted that. And we did not do that. You had the luxury of doing that. Let's talk about some other favorable treatment they got. Let's talk about the old niggas and the bastard kids. Oh, I'm going there. I'm going there with roller skates on.
Hey, deal with it, nigga.
The old niggas. Why, he could have 2 or 3 hoes carrying the bastard kids on this side of town and the other side of town. Papa could be a Rolling Stone back then. It wasn't a felony to do that. By the way, it wasn't a felony to do that back then. Back then, getting some nasty hoes pregnant, you could hide your hand, and that wasn't a felony. Today it is. So when they had all of their freedoms, what did they do with them? You want to talk about priorities? Well, they were under the gun. You're absolutely right. Them niggas were willing to risk life and limb to get them some white sex. I mean, they were willing to dodge bullets, have car chases, run across state lines, get their passports and hide out in a foreign country. They were willing to risk life and limb over it. They were willing to risk death and lynching over it. They literally had signs out. You mess with these white women, we're killing all of you. Here they go. Let me get over there right there. Let me sneak over to that side of the town. Niggas is 3 niggas in a damn car, all of them looking out the windows to see if anybody sees them coming through. I'm going over to Miss Ann's house. Yeah, ma'am, they were so much under the gun that that's what was happening. Yeah. They were so worried about it that was a common occurrence literally in every city, every black city in America. That was a common occurrence. Yeah, that was what they were at. That's what they were at. Yeah. That was how oppressed, that's how worried. I'm not saying that the circumstances were not real. I'm telling you, and that was how worried about the circumstances they were. You didn't have an STD epidemic until they came along. You didn't have a bastard baby epidemic until they came along. You didn't have a consumerist epidemic until they came along. You didn't have a drug epidemic until they came along. They showed up and all of a sudden the wheels come off the damn wagon. We have black folk who are in unprecedented numbers working in the manufacturing sector. What did they do to capitalize off of it? They bought a damn house, they bought a Cadillac, and then they sat their asses down or went to church so they could all get together and show out in front of each other. You know what they didn't do? They didn't brag about what they were passing down. You've never seen a culture of that. Now, in white society, you see that. They brag about what they're passing down. These old niggas, you can't show me anywhere where they got together and they were bragging about this is what I'm setting up for the kids and grandkids and this is what I'm passing down. With that job that was 5 times more secure than ours, all of us know an old nigga with a couple of pensions. All of us know some old nigga with a couple of pensions. Meanwhile, what do the kids have?
Welcome to Good Burger, home of the Good Burger. Can I take your order?
So the old niggas got a pension from General Motors and General Electric and Michelin. And Lockheed Martin, they got a pension from them damn places. The children were 28 years old working on their 7th job and hoping they can sock away enough in a 401k and that the stock market doesn't wipe out its value. Yeah, the old niggas were really up under the gun, and what did they do with it? All of us know some of them who's sitting up here and living off their pension, old and rickety as hell, and then gonna tell you and me what their damn excuses are for what they didn't do. And we got young black folk out here today calling me up every single week trying to find out how they can stack up what they need to for their legacy. This is a conversation that did not occur before now, except in very, very, very limited circles. This is a conversation that did not exist. And the fact that it didn't, that's not me dragging nobody. That's me reporting the news.
Okay. Now, Jason, permit me to say this. Okay, now would you at least, listen, I can't even dispute that. I mean, you brought a lot of facts. I will agree with 95% of it. The only 5% I think that I would like for you to at least consider would be one thing. I think with our elders, they because they were so denied the opportunity to be participant to American society, I think that created a lust in them that you mentioned. And I think, it's like if I deny you chocolate cake, Jason, you're going to start obsessing about that.
Okay,
and
why is it that Carter G. Woodson didn't have the same lust for it? Why was it Marcus Garvey didn't have the same lust for it? Why was it that Elijah Muhammad didn't have the same lust for it? Why is it Malcolm X didn't have the same lust for it? Why is it Huey Newton didn't have the same lust for it?
Okay, but like you just pointed out, those guys were outliers. They were the anomaly. They were the exception, not the rule. That's exactly my point. So to that, actually, I concede to your point on that. They were not en masse with that. But I'm saying, just to agree with your point, I think the majority of our elders back then in their heyday, I think a lot of them, they just felt like we want to be a part of the larger, assimilated, grander American society.
Right, but just because that's a weakness on their part, that doesn't, you're giving an explanation, but it's not an excuse. So what you're saying is an explanation, but it doesn't excuse it. So no, I don't have to recognize it because, yeah, you're giving an explanation, some would say a rationalization, but it still doesn't excuse what they did. Great, now we have a better understanding of why they did it. We have a better understanding of why they did it now. Great. And it changes what?
Well, I agree. That's why it's incumbent upon us. I agree. I'm all about getting these reparations, cash reparations, by the way. But my thing is, I think they just didn't have the scope of full understanding of their repercussions. I just really think they were just tricked. I think that they were tweaked.
No,
and
ma'am.
I just think that
no, they were not tricked. They literally watched a little kid, Emmett Till, get murdered for chasing a white woman. And then they jumped on the next car they could to go chase one. They literally watched a child get killed. And by the way, what the hell are you laughing at?
I'm laughing at what you said.
Okay, it's not very damn funny to me.
Well, I'm not laughing about Emmett Till. Emmett Till is actually from Chicago.
I just mentioned Emmett Till, and your old gooseneck granny ass sitting up here laughing. What the hell is so funny to you?
I'm laughing about when you said that they were chasing the white women. Put it in context, Jason.
Ma'am, I am putting it in context. I don't see any subtext that would be funny after I said the name Emmett Till. I don't see a punchline that a person could insert after that.
Well, the punchline obviously wasn't Emmett Till. Obviously, I mean, I think you would, I guess, consider that.
Okay, here I don't guess anything. Let me explain exactly what it is. It ain't funny, and this is another thing that we don't like about these old niggas. We hear the name Emmett Till, and there ain't no damn laughing matter. Meanwhile, you got some Depends. You got some Depends diapers wearing old heifer on my damn phone, laughing.
Jason, you're reaching. I was not laughing at Emmett Till. I was laughing at what you said that they were chasing white women.
You know what's funny? What's funny to me is your colostomy bag is funny to me. Now that's funny to me, Granny.
I'm the same age as you, Jason. I'm the same age as you, Jason.
Your catheter you're wearing is funny to me. Everything else you're saying is not funny to me.
I'm gonna hang up because you're trying to make this an entertainment.
I'm not making anything entertainment here, you jackass. That mess is not funny to me. You damn McGilla gorilla looking ass old Depends wearing Liberty Mutual buying bastard. She been sitting on this damn phone giggling the whole damn time. That ain't funny. This is a difference between the mindset of us and these old ass niggas. We're the militant ones. They called us militant. No, it just means we're not slapstick, silly, and stupid. Yeah, we're not militant. We're just serious. We're not looking to sit up. Understand something. Niggas was on the plantations laughing and dancing. You've always had some group of old rickety ass, wore out knees ass, Depends diapers wearing ass bastards sitting on the damn plantations laughing. Sitting in the barracks in World War I laughing. World War II laughing. Korean War laughing. Vietnam laughing. It ain't till you get to us to Gulf War I the damn laughing stopped. You want to hear about being on code? We talking about this stuff right here. This ain't no damn laughing matter. You see, for my generation, that bull crap is life and death. I'm growing up in the damn 1980s and 1990s, and I'm still seeing what the hell's going on. That's not funny. There's no laughing track going on there. The reason we don't respect you old niggas is because we got serious issues and y'all are the biggest damn class clowns there are. You should be the most rock rib, hard-nosed, stern-faced, serious nigga in the room. And you're not. We got white supremacists who are dead ass serious in their intent to harm us at every conceivable level, and the old niggas is trying to shuck and jive and giggle and play their way through every damn thing. I haven't said anything tonight that's a damn punchline. Not a thing. And some of y'all in here are old nigga, goofy, young niggas. Don't have me get your ass up out the paint. These old niggas are always looking for a reason to laugh and giggle because this is all a big ass joke to them. Meanwhile, the young people, understand something, them old ass bastards were able to buy a brownstone in New York City. Back as late as the 80s. A brownstone in New York City was still affordable as recently as the 1980s. 10 years later, their children can't afford to be there anymore. Today, you can't afford to be in the damn city anymore. And you got somebody sitting up here laughing about these circumstances. While the children cannot even survive to be there, can't even afford to be there. And that was New York City, which was the worst case scenario 30 years ago. It was an isolated one 30 years ago. Now it is the rule today because now the disease is spread New York, LA, Los Angeles, DC, Chicago, Boston, you name the city. The old niggas can laugh about it. They're not trying to get a place there. They got one. It might be ever so old and ever so crumbled. There's no place like home. Meanwhile, the children are out here catching hell. The prices of the homes today, $400,000. With an interest rate that's out of this damn world today. And you talking about me having some sympathy for some old Fred G. Sanford looking bastard and his woman? While they should be sitting here crying in tears and repenting in sackcloth and ashes because they abandoned the battlefield and left babies out there to fend for themselves while they went to go chase some interracial sexual access and some drugs. And they left babies out there. They left infants and toddlers out there to fend for themselves. And here we are in the 21st century. This ain't no damn laughing matter. These folks are slaughtering the young people in the streets. murdering them at grocery stores, murdering them at the Waffle House, as a direct result of the old niggas not standing up the way we are. Understand something. Our children will have it easier than we did because we were willing to have the courage to take the stand now. The old niggas taught white society that it was okay to assault us because none of them old bastards was gonna do anything. That's the reason why the police and the government and the teachers and everything else are so fearless about putting their hands on your children and doing whatever to them, because the old niggas taught them there were gonna be no consequences. Do whatever you please. We gonna bow and scrape. They taught them that it was open season on our children. We're the first generation to teach them there will be consequences if you try that. You can try it, but something's probably gonna happen. We'll call the police. Oh, trust me, they won't get here in time. But you're welcome to start dialing. Now folks got a new attitude. Now they got to go kick it up to the governor's office and call for backup all the way at the governor's office. Because they don't feel so safe and emboldened to try that mess with our generation or the next. They don't feel so emboldened to do that anymore. Ooh, wow, you know, your grandpappy and your great grandpappy they didn't respond the way you do, Jason. They didn't quite respond that way. I've been saying ever since I picked up this microphone that we are re-educating this society about how they're going to respond and treat us. We're re-educating them about that. In the 1960s, you got wall-to-wall images of niggas sitting at lunch counters getting their heads busted open so they can sit up here and get a damn cup of coffee. My generation is saying, man, damn them folks and they stale-ass, mayo-ass coffee. We can do anything better than them. We need to have pride where we at. We are the bomb. We are lit. Can't nobody do it better than us. That's a conversation they weren't having except in small, isolated circles. We need to call it for what it is. And the dire straits and the jeopardy that they left our generation in and the ones after us, that ain't no laughing matter. They saw what was happening. They saw what happened to Malcolm X's father. They saw what the threat was. And they didn't say it's now or never, we do or die. They didn't say that. They left it to my generation to say it's now or never, we do or die. They left it to mine. Because they told us, well, keep your head down now. Don't make too many waves now. Keep your head down. If you keep your head down, man, y'all is so lucky. You sure can buy some tennis shoes. So let me get this straight. You old niggas went to, y'all's fight was to get tennis shoes and cell phones. In the words of Malcolm X, that's not a revolution. When the hell have you ever heard about a revolution being fought to integrate a public toilet and integrate a lunch counter? That's the prize you fighting for? Well, see, y'all can go down to the shopping mall now. Folks, did the founding fathers of America, the white ones, did they fight a revolution to integrate the king's palace? Did they tell the king that the problem that we have is that you will not let us sleep with the ladies of the court? That's the problem. If you would just give us sexual access to the aristocracy, we'll let this little revolution thing go. Is that what they said? The French Revolution? The Bolshevik Revolution? Mao Tse-tung's revolution, was that what they fought? Did any of these people fight a revolution for that? Well, you know, we can get more cell phones and tennis shoes now. You ever heard anybody say they're fighting a revolution for that? Or brag to their children? Well, you know, before us, you couldn't go shop at Foot Locker before us now. These other people fought revolutions for ownership, for self-determination. They fought revolutions to get away from their oppressors. They fought revolutions to put barriers up between them and their oppressors. The old niggas in America, the first group in the history of man to fight a revolution to knock down the barriers between them and their oppressors. And you talking about there's something funny about that. That's not funny. Caller from area code 305, you're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
B1 TBA. B1 to the rest of the brigade. This your boy One Love, sitting here in Alabama by way of Opelika, Miami, Florida.
What's on your mind, One Love?
TBA, I love that energy. I love that energy that what you just put out, man. You know why? I'm so pissed off at what she just, that last caller just did, because I have technologies for this, and I told you they'll chop off their nose to spite their face, and it's ridiculous. It is absolutely ridiculous that she would stay online, on hold, to get on here and talk to you, and then hang up that she's mad that you're showing her she's in the wrong. If you could do me one favor, TBA, put that picture up. Put that picture up with that dude holding the gun. That's their pictures that they saw him shooting. That picture right there. This is what pisses me off, because, of course, me and you, we speak. You know what I have as technology. But as the white media, with the white media, they showed this picture that you got up right now, and they would call that dude for 2 days, 48 hours. They called that dude a person of interest. TBA, not a suspect, not a mass killer. We're talking about the title of your broadcast tonight. This is two different laws.
Let me ask y'all something. Folks, did they ever refer to Bill Cosby as a suspect? Did the white media ever refer to Bill Cosby as a suspect? Did they ever refer to Michael Jackson as a suspect? Just asking for a friend. Go on, One.
For a friend. Bruh, you know, we done talked offline, and I told you, TBA, that they were cutting off their nose to spite their face, and I felt that they were doing stuff to stop me from putting out this technology. And it was for that reason. With all of these school shootings, mass shootings, they didn't want this out there. You know why? Because it's out here to stop this from happening. But because they wanted to be, just to go into the main shooter, the shooter in Maine, it was okay. It was okay for him to do that, except that the only thing that happened was they was expecting him to be a mass shooter against black people. Now, facts on facts, TBA. Facts on facts, TBA. They said, the police, on their first interview, the police said, we don't know his name. We don't know his name. But we do know he's a a reservist in the Army. We do know that he's a firearm instructor off a picture, but you don't know his name, but you know who he is. If you are a firearm instructor, and TBA, I'm going to bring it down to your town. I'm going to bring it down to your town. You in the boot. You in the boot. You not Baton Rouge. You know what I'm saying? You in a smaller place. In a smaller place, if you got a firearm instructor, he's also the firearm instructor. He trains the police. They know exactly who he is. How? How in the world is it a 48-hour manhunt? If you put a helicopter in the sky, it covers the entire city. If you're in a small area, all they knew is where not to go. After 48 hours, they finally went to his house. If they were sitting there talking about come out with your hands up, who were they talking to if it wasn't him? You see? So what you're saying, two different laws. Yes, sir. That's exactly what it is. So anybody talking about it had nothing to do with race. If me sitting here in Birmingham, if I would have walked out of the store in Walmart, out of the self-checkout counter, and I paid for everything else, and forgot to pay for my kids' lollipop, they will follow me from Birmingham to New Mexico City, draw down on me and shoot me.
You make a very
But
good
this
point
guy,
there. You make an
we
excellent
can't
point.
find him.
Brother, y'all, he walked into one business with a gun on video. One Love, I can't imagine that we could walk into a business with a weapon, shoot up a dozen or 24 people on video, and then walk right back out and make it to the next place. Think about that. If y'all went and shut up a Walmart, you wouldn't be able to make it out the parking lot if you took the time to go up in it, because you didn't have black folk get shot by the police at Walmart, by the way, unarmed. So imagine you walk into a business, it's on camera. I want you all to take a look at the image on your screen and imagine that that's Walmart, Target, or your local Family Dollar, whatever. That you go up in there, you go shoot a few dozen people, and then you walk out the front door. Don't you admit there's none of us who think that we would actually be able to get out of the parking lot. We don't think we'd make it that far. He didn't just make it that far, he made it to the next parking lot, and the mayhem ensues again. So we've always said that they treat white suspects a whole lot different. They make sure their I's are dotted and their T's are crossed. We can't violate anybody's rights. And, oh, well, we need to, be cognizant and aware of where they are and considerate of their circumstances. And everything's all nice and polite. When they're going after black folk, they're kicking in doors. They're coming out windows. They're grabbing your kids. They're throwing the little babies down in the middle of the parking lot in their diapers. It's no holds barred. When that happens, it's no holds barred. They sent damn me an army to go get Keefe D 25 years later. Now, this fella sitting up here on camera wherever he goes, wreaking havoc and mayhem, can walk out of one business and walk right, calmly get back in his car. It's not like he was running around. Calmly get back in his car, go light up another, drive down the block like he's working for Uber and go light up another one. And if you and me tried to walk out of Walmart with a damn candy bar, we wouldn't get out the damn door. I'll let you have the last word.
I appreciate the last word, TBA. And with the last word, it's two things. Keeping that picture on the screen, everybody, use your imagination, because you have to as a black person. White people don't have to do this. That gun in his hand, replace that gun in your imagination with a bag, with an actual grocery bag and a receipt. You would not make it to your car if you was parked right next to the handicap spot. Second thing, you can't make it to another spot. That spot, TBA, that's the second area was less than 10 minutes, less than a mile away. And he got away. He got away. When you, with your black ass and my black ass, can have a cell phone, I feared for my life. I shot him. They knew exactly where to go. They knew exactly where not to go. And they didn't do anything to him. There are two sets of laws. There are two sets of laws. And when this is exactly correlated, TBA, to what your program was yesterday. And I'll land my plane on this. When it comes to these son husbands, mother wives, is that they, the mother wives, won't teach their sons that you don't get this kind of treatment. You don't get to walk away. Because I had spoken with UTB and I really wanted to wait until you had another broadcast on the business to bring this up. But when you brought this up, I just want to tell you, I have been funded $5 million, and it was by black investors. Because when I speak about cutting off your nose despite your own face, it's because they know who not to fund. Because what the actual product I have will stop these active shootings. And who are the active shooters? It's white people. They don't want their kids being shot, but they don't want a black person to be the one who stops it.
Well, these things don't happen accidentally, that's for certain. Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. Let me get caller area code 404. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, Brother Jason. This is Brother Aquarius calling from Atlanta.
All right, Brother Aquarius from Atlanta. What's on your mind?
The thing that was on my mind, I just had one question. Since they say, united we stand, divided we fall, but yet they turn around and treat us like we're public enemy number one, and they call for stupid things like race wars. I just wanted to know that if we were ever invaded by a foreign entity, should we tell them to keep that same energy? Because if I learned anything, after 9/11, after the heat died down, we went right back to being public enemy number one. I don't see myself standing up to defend somebody that wants to do me harm for no reason other than the fact that I'm a different skin color. It's just stupid. I just was wondering, should we tell them to keep that same energy about a race war if we're ever invaded by a foreign entity?
Well, I mean, they are being invaded from the southern border, although a lot of that is engineered there. So, but, I mean, you can tell it to them, but it won't work because, as I've said, they have a special relationship to us. We are a barometer of the health of white supremacy. So as far as they're concerned, as long as we are oppressed and penalized, all is well. With the Mexicans, they don't have this. They don't have the same value in that penalization metric. They're not the same barometer. So all these other things you're referring to, like I say, they have a symbiotic relationship with them. With us, the relationship has always historically been adversarial. We have a special relationship and are reserved for special torment. These other folks here, they got a symbiotic relationship, whether it's the Arabs, Mexicans, so they complain about these circumstances, but these are all part of the plan. So you can say it to them, but no, their relationship with them is totally different. Thank you very much for giving us a call. Let me get caller area code 323. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, good evening, Big Brother Jason. This is Brother Elijah calling out of Wheaton, Maryland.
All right, Brother Elijah, what's on your mind?
Brother, I got two quick questions, and I'm going to land my plane for the next caller. Brother, do you think at this point, and my heart goes out to those people who got shot and killed in Maine. All right, very unfortunate. Do you think that at this point, if Congress passes a new bill to stop these active shooters, do you think it will work at this point? Or do you think what will really stop them is an actual stigma? That's my
No.
question, brother.
Look, we see the same damn thing happening. There are warning signs all over the place. But
yes, sir.
You see, we got a school to prison pipeline for black children. They do not have a school to prison pipeline for white children. You have a job to prison pipeline for black men. You don't have one for white men. So that's what I'm saying is that they do not execute these laws or carry them out with these other folks who are concerned. For example, they want to make sure that they do. There's a reason why not arresting these people is so critical. They would rather take you to a hospital for evaluation because they know if we arrest you, then that changes how we have to respond going forward. Taking you for a hospital evaluation gives a lot more leeway for the future than an arrest. See, we got the arrest reserved for the niggas. We do that with you, and now, quote, you're in the system. Now the paper trail has begun. Now all the surveillance and everything is supposed to happen. Now you're subject to that. So everything is calculated and calibrated towards avoiding precisely that. That when these mechanisms are in place for the purposes of limiting your rights. You have some bastard kids, we're going to make it a felony. That's limiting your rights. You commit domestic violence, that we're going to limit your rights. You make a threat to somebody, we're going to limit your rights. So if we take specific actions, the only result will be that it limits your rights. So how do we address this situation in a manner that preserves this fellow white person's rights and doesn't limit them? This is how you end up here taking tremendous chances. I'll let you have the last word.
No, brother. Thank you so much. Very powerful broadcast as usual. Something new, big brother. All right, and I'm just sorry. This is these devils are really on a rampage, and rather than stopping these devils, they want to target us. But as the messenger, Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, the white man's the devil. Be one, big brother.
Let me get caller from area code, what is this, 240? You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Damon from Waldorf, Maryland.
All right, Damon from Waldorf. What's on your mind?
Jason, the situation is even going to get worse for us, unfortunately. Everybody knows that white supremacists have infiltrated law enforcement and the military. And with our Secretary of Defense, Mr. Austin, he has ordered the military to do a investigation, and apparently they're trying to push the white supremacists out, but senators like Tommy Tuberville are saying that's hurting recruitment. And then there's another article saying that 1 in 5 new recruits in the military are white supremacists. And so with them trying to push them out and they're trying to get in, unfortunately, they're going to be out on the streets here with us. And we need to make sure that everybody got their Kit Kats and chocolate bars with them, just in case anything pop off.
Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. Please do give us a call again. Let me get caller from area code 229. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Good evening, brother. This is Rob from Valdosta.
Rob from Valdosta, what's on your mind?
That brother just hit on the topic that I wanted to bring up is when that dude killed the brother on the train in New York. That was a clear sign of how rampant white supremacy runs in the military. But as for what that sister was first started out talking about is we need to sit our grandparents or our uncles and aunties down. You will have to fight the old niggas tooth and nail to pull them up off of that democratic slave plantation. There ain't no pulling them off of that slam. But you try to take them shackles off their mind, they will fight you tooth and nail to put them back on.
Brother, it's worse than
That's
that.
all I wanted to say.
It's actually worse than that. Remember, it was the old niggas that enabled Bill Clinton and empowered him. And you'll remember when Joe Biden was running for president, remember I had some folks who called me up and Man, I mean, we need them. Some black folks need to be in jail, Jason. Remember that guy who called in? Remember the woman who called in? So these old niggas, far as they're concerned, it's not that they don't see what the Democrats did. As far as they're concerned, yeah, we need the Democrats to be control of the young niggas. Not the Republicans saying this. It's these old niggas saying that. Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. Now, there's the reality of it. They see the Democrats as being control for the young folk, for what they didn't do for the young people. Well, now the Democrats will make sure you be quiet. They'll make sure that you can't complain about it. That's why me speaking out about it bothers them so much. You want to talk about policing ourselves? Well, there's one area you could start is by policing people lying to you. He wants to start with the kids. I'm like, no, let's start with the old niggas. Let's start with the problem. Caller from area code 412. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Good evening, Jason. This is Robert calling from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Robert from Pittsburgh. What's on your mind?
I really appreciate when you straighten up the person about laughing. This is not a laughing matter, what we're going through right now. It is wrong and evil what happened with these killings. This is a classic case of pay no attention to that man behind the curtain. It is deadly obvious what the issue is. Guns don't kill people. People use guns as a tool to act out their genetic dysfunction. This should be a further wake-up call for us to understand what time it is in this political authoritarian environment. Aboriginals, stay ready so we don't have to get ready. This is, when I look at that picture that you have on the screen right now, I can just imagine that gun being pointed at me. And it's sad that so many people have to get their lives lost because they're cutting off their nose to spite their face. These people come over the border, some of them have ankle bracelets on. They don't care as long as they kowtow to the agenda of being anti-black. So this issue that you're bringing up today is right on time and perfect, and I really agree with your passion, and that was perfect for that situation.
Well, thank you very much for giving us a call tonight, Robert. We appreciate that. Let me get caller from area code 618. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Good evening, Brother Black. This is Sister Miriam. I'm calling from East St. Louis, Illinois.
Okay, you say it's Sister Miriam?
Yes.
All right, Sister Miriam, what's on your mind?
Sure. As the brother just stated, and as you so eloquently stated earlier, this is definitely no laughing matter. And this day and age, to try to give a pass to the supposedly elders of our lineage that let us down, that didn't even bother to hand us a torch, that didn't leave or give us anything, and to try to make sad excuses for it. And then to be up here on this phone like a laughing hyena when we are faced with systemic global white supremacy. And we have to realize that this is what it's about. Systemic racism, white supremacy, white privilege, and they are definitely doing everything within their power to undermine us, including using these illegal migrants who's coming into this country, who are rapists, pedophiles, who are cartel and criminals, to give them a boot up or a hand up in a leapfrog situation over us to be even police. It's just that we have to really stay focused and stay awake and definitely gatekeep not only our culture but our safety by any means necessary. And I want to just give my flowers to you, salute to you, Brother Jason Black, This is a wonderful program. It's outstanding broadcast, and it is definitely 360 degrees analysis that is not found anywhere else.
Well, thank
Brother,
you very much, sister. We
you
appreciate
break the
that.
mold.
It's 360, we're about halfway there, but no, I give the point. Let me get caller from area code 862. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Brother Jason, good evening. This is Jonathan Edwards from Asheboro, North Carolina.
If you got your phone on speaker, you're going to need to take it off the speaker. It sounds like you're about 7 feet from your phone.
Yeah, this is Brother Jonathan Edwards from Asheboro, North Carolina. How are you?
All right, Jonathan from Asheboro, what's on your mind?
The way I see this, this is like a classic broken arrow situation. This was a white supremacist stormtrooper that went off the program. He was a firearms instructor. He was military affiliated through the reserve. Probably didn't really serve in the main part of the military. If he did, he was out and then, trying to stay affiliated so he could keep access to, the tools that the military allows you to have as far as access to bases and staying in the know about information. But they knew this guy. If he had a firearms instructorship, he went through an evaluation to get his firearms instructorship license. If he was in the military, he went through evaluations for his mental capabilities and mental stability to be in the military. So they knew this guy. This was not some random, kid that was sitting on the couch playing Call of Duty. This was a known actor. And they figured that he would probably act, and it would be in a way that it would bolster his white affiliation. The problem is that he had a problem with them. And he used the tools that were at his disposal against them.
I'm wondering
now,
to
what does that do
myself,
for the black people?
I haven't had anybody from the military call in or whatever, but I'm wondering if you were a black man in the military and you threatened to do a mass shooting at West Point. So you a black man in the military, and if you were in the Marines, was that Paris Island? So if you were threatening to do a mass shooting at Paris Island, the voices of Malcolm X told me to start killing niggas up in. What happens? So that wasn't very polite of you to do, Jamal. Well, we're going to evaluate you. I'm like, really? So that's the response? I don't think so.
Well, let me give you a little bit of history. When I was in late 80s, early 90s, 87 through 92, the racism and white supremacy was rampant. It was out of control. It was, the white guys had their Confederate flags hanging up in their rooms, and they had their General Lee painted vehicles, and it was out of control. So some of the brothers that I was affiliated with, we started to let it be known that we were closing ranks and we were not going to be affiliated with them, and they were going to pay, very dearly if they decided to cross over into our areas when we were, segregating ourselves from it. And we all came under investigations, court martials, so forth and so on, just for closing ranks around each other. Everybody going to where we need to go to on the base and off base, 2, 3, 4 together. We had, some regalia, your medallions and beads and stuff to let everybody know who we were, So we had to basically formulate a gang to combat the white supremacists that were in at that time. So it's not a surprise that they're white supremacists. There's always been white supremacists in the military.
Yeah, if you so much as said something like that, it don't matter why you said it. Here's the thing, they ain't gonna sit and investigate why you said that. As soon as you say something, you making a threat. It's like, wait a minute, are you threatening your superior officer? This isn't gonna end well. What are you talking about? That would be the last time you'd be seen.
At that time, the Malcolm X movie was relevant, and all of us started wearing the Malcolm X hats, as a sign that, we was on board with what Brother Malcolm was saying in the movie. And we were, closing ranks. We started wearing Malcolm X T-shirts. We started wearing, Elijah Muhammad and Farrakhan T-shirts. And that stuff, just the regalia in itself was enough for the military to start an investigation on us for just wearing some stuff. We didn't even have to say anything. So you're always public enemy number one, and this should go out to the rest of the world to understand that you are behind enemy lines and you are deeply entrenched in most of your major cities in areas where they've made it basically illegal for you to protect yourself.
Folks,
so
if you all
remember,
remember, ever since, what was his name, Chris Kyle. If you all remember the incident with Chris Kyle, he was at the gun range with one of his veteran friends, and the fella had issues or whatever and shot him and the other fella dead.
Right.
The military knows about this. I mean, that's one of the most celebrated military people ever in recent memory. Whole movie made about him. One of the most celebrated military people ever.
Right.
The military is more than well aware about that, about folk who got issues like that. So you got a gun instructor who has told you that, you know what, I'm thinking about killing all of y'all. I'm thinking about shooting this whole
Chris
damn
Kyle
place up. Now, what the hell do you got to do if you're white? What the hell do you have to do to be a threat?
Nothing, because they make heroes out of it. They make heroes out of their killers. If you go back and you look at the movies, Doc Holliday was a gangster, and they made him a hero. You go back, Al Capone. You know, all of these guys throughout, Jesse James, you know, they look up to their heroes. They look up to their killers. You know, the outlaw persona is the American persona. Have gun, will travel is their credence, their credo. So you can't take anything that they do at face value, because they adore and they lionize the killers and how many documentaries have they done about Jeffrey Dahmer?
When you got a situation where a fella can be sitting there and whatnot and make multiple threats and then is sent off like that, and he's in the military, it's like the folk above him and everybody else supposed to be getting investigated, because what in the hell were you doing? Thank you very much for giving us a call here tonight. I mean, folks, for those of you who've been in the military, you've been to Fort Jackson or Fort Hood. Imagine you're a soldier at Fort Hood with an M16, standing there in front of everybody with an M16 and talking about, you know what? I'm thinking about shooting everybody. Think about that for a few moments here. Well, yeah, I'm thinking about shooting everybody. After you say those words, what do they usually, what would you expect them to do after you've said those words? Or are you going to tell me, Jason, they ain't going to take that serious. Ain't nobody going to worry about that. You can just talk and kind of wait, really? So I can be standing there in front of them with an M16 and tell them, yeah, I'm thinking about killing everybody. No, seriously, I've been thinking about it for a while, actually. Caller Mary Code 628, you're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Don Pete.
Okay, Don, you're playing on the phone tonight, brother. Get closer to your phone. What's going on?
Yeah. No, I'm not playing. I'm just using a different phone, Jason. That's why it's 628. So I got it close to my mouth. So can you hear me? Okay.
Yes, Don. What's on your mind?
Okay. As we can see, there is the decline of overall protection in this country. And like you were saying, every opportunity they have to line us up and get us in the production process of the prison industrial complex. That's what they're doing. As we watch the erosion of what was fought for, we see ourselves drifting closer and closer back to a state that we didn't want to be in. And it's called enslavement. These generations aren't getting, these generations aren't getting any better. They're getting worse. You know, as I approach my 60th anniversary of being birthed on this earth, I know what it was like being the residue of the baby boomer generation. I call us the transitional period, because we had to deal with issues of full employment and things of that nature, which when you have full employment and you have them folks and their population, you know, is the greatest in the country, then they're going to get the job. And so that's where you saw a lot of high. Okay, bro.
Okay,
I'm talking real talk.
We're bringing in for a landing, Don.
I'm talking real talk. Okay, I'll bring in for a landing. Here's the deal. In the chat, I said, what about Bob? And for me and for our media company, Bob, What About Bob is a series. And it is what about bouncing out of Babylon? Because this land is going to be destroyed. You're already seeing it. It's made already too many historic histories, and the things that have been done. Oh, you don't think the Most High, the Creator, is going to repay? He's going to repay. And so Babylon, this mystery Babylon that we live in, is going to be destroyed. So my whole thing is, what about Bob? What about bouncing out of Babylon?
What about Bob? That was a good movie. All right, thank you very much for giving us a call tonight, Don. Let me get call to America 305. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
What's going on, TBA? This is Jay from Miami. How you doing?
All right, G from Miami. What's on your mind?
Well, what's going on? I just got two things to ask you. You know all the immigrants that come on to this shore and say, you bad Akata, you don't want to work, oh, all the immigrants, all black people are bad behaviors. Where that smoke at right now? You don't see them saying nothing. They'll never critique the Caucasian on any of his bad actions.
Well, no, I mean, you heard the one who called in earlier. We started talking about them, and he said, well, what about us? So,
and the other thing I want to talk about is, like, from human resources to your humanity on the street, it's hell out here, Jason. And us colored folks got to learn how to just stick together and just fight through it. That's the only way it's going to happen.
Thank you very much for giving us a call here tonight. We appreciate that. Like I say here, folks, none of this stuff happens in a vacuum, and none of it is by accident here. More than anything else, I want you all to keep your eyes and your ears open. I've been saying this forever. Keep your eyes and your ears open. It doesn't guarantee, but it certainly does give you much better odds than you would otherwise have here. They're letting them roam the streets here because preserving their rights to do so is more important than preserving your right to live. That's the game that they're playing. So if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. We're going to go ahead and wrap things up here tonight. If you are new here to the Black Channel, welcome to the haven of intelligent black thought. We do this every weekend. Click that red subscribe button. Click that yellow notification bell. Join us each and every time that we're here. If you haven't been to our website, blackchannelfilms.com, you want to go and check out our groundbreaking best-selling documentary work, 7 a.m., Gentrified, Race War, all available on DVD and streaming. Go to blackchannelfilms.com. That is blackchannelfilms.com. I want to thank my man B1 Media as a lifesaver, as well as everyone else who has contributed to support tonight's program on PayPal, CashApp, Super Chat, Venmo. Thank you very much for your support there. We appreciate that. Thank you to everyone here for liking, subscribing, and sharing. Thank you for tuning in live or recorded, and this concludes tonight's broadcast of The Black Channel. I am your host, your brother, your humble servant, the Black Authority, and until next time, my brothers and my sisters from around the world, remember,